There are 5 paths to building a successful mortgage career. And today on this episode, I'm going to break down for you each of the paths, the pros and cons, and talk about what I think is the best path for the majority of people and which one I think is the most difficult. Hey, I'm your host, Scott Beckford. This is the I Love Mortgage Brokerage podcast. And each week I bring you an episode with some tactics or tools or ideas to help you grow. This week, I'm actually just breaking down the 5 different ways I've seen people build successful mortgage businesses and what their weaknesses are when they come from that path. So if you think about, there's like 5 paths up the mountain, and each path gives you a set of advantages and disadvantages. So I'm going to talk about those because maybe there's another path for you that you don't realize, or maybe that would be a better fit, but you need to understand these other options. Before I jump into that, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Omwell. Omwell is an amazing tool for Canadian mortgage brokers. It allows you to send out these monthly reports that get a really high click rate, 60 to 80%. And what it does is it essentially allows your customers and you to monitor their home equity and buying power, which creates a lot of conversations. These conversations turns into referrals for your partners as well as leads. Check them out at omwell.ca/Scott. And let's jump into this episode. All right. So the first path that I see is a banker to broker. So somebody who's a bank specialist and they move to being a mortgage broker. And this can be a great path for people because you get paid to learn. So often when you start as a bank specialist, there's a small salary, plus they want you on commission. And so they put you on this path and they pay you some small, and they do some training. They got some decent sales and underwriting training, and you may get some branch leads. So if this bank has a branches, you can sometimes get leads from them. It's less common now, but it was certainly the way it was. So that's the pros of that. Now the cons are you only know how to underwrite and work with one lender. When you become a mortgage broker, it's like you have one golf club in your golf bag, and all of a sudden now you've got 15 golf clubs and you need to learn how to use them. Now it gives you a lot more options, but there is some learning that happens. And so often somebody who's a successful banker, their biggest challenge is, okay, I know how my bank used to do it, but there's 3 other options here and I don't know how they want these files packaged. And so that's an area that they're going to find. The second area that I find bank specialists struggle with is that sometimes they lean a lot on the fact that they think the brand matters. Customers don't care. I'm going to play this right now. They don't actually care as much as you think. But if in your mind you think that it mattered or you sold it a lot, you feel like it's a weird thing. And so you really do need to be able to have a meaningful conversation with your client saying why you made the transition. So that's the biggest thing. Here's the thing though, the bottom line is that if you're good at generating leads to the bank, you're going to crush it as a broker because you make more per deal. So the compensation's higher. You keep more of it because of the way that it's more tax efficient, and you have way more flexibility when it comes to marketing and technology and tools and stuff. The banks have very strict guidelines on what you can and can't do. When I've done podcasts, there's a guy named Adam Walker. I've got many episodes that I've done with people who are ex-bankers. So that's one path. The second path is a sales-only lead generation shop. So this is somebody's like True North. That was when they were in Canada, and they would have salespeople, sales associates, or whatever they want to call them. And the company would generate the leads through marketing agreements, through buying leads. And then the salesperson would sit there and crush through the sales calls all day. And so they get really good at, and the pro of this type of model is that you get a lot of experience talking to clients, as well as doing at least the initial underwrite. Often there's a team behind you that does some of the underwriting stuff. You mostly just got to get the commitment, the yes, and then they take it from there. But you can compress 5 years of experience into 1 or 2 years because of the volume of conversations that you have. You get to learn fast, and you get to learn the sales. Now, mortgages is not just sales. Mortgages, marketing, sales is another part of it. You got to learn how to sell. There's really a few different skills. You got to learn how to market. You got to learn how to sell. You got to learn how to package files so underwrite. And then you have to learn how to build processes and people. So there's really a few different skills that you need to learn as you go. But the sales only lead generation is another path that I've seen. But the cons of this, when you get out, you don't know how to generate your own business. So you've got this great sales skill, but you need to learn how to market now. You need to learn how to get people to call you, or where am I going to find business? So that's where you often will need to spend your time on developing the marketing skills to drive the top of the funnel, because if you get the client on the phone or you get a conversation, you're probably going to win them. I've done numerous episodes with people on that as well. So path number 3. So path number 1 is the banker to broker. Path number 2 is the sales only and lead gen shop. Path number 3 is assistant to broker. So another path I've seen people go, they start off as an assistant, maybe they start with documents and they start underwriting. They learn the back end. So if you think of your mortgage business as a kitchen or restaurant, you got the back end and you got the front end. So the kitchen where all the work gets done, and the front end where they talk to the customers. Often when somebody comes through this path, they get a really deep understanding of the underwriting of the documents, how the lender systems work. You'll learn the operational side, but what you're missing, the con of this, is that you typically don't have the sales skills developed. And sometimes people go into the assistant path because they don't enjoy sales or don't want to learn sales. And so if you don't want to make the transition to be successful from going from assistant to broker, you're going to need to develop sales skills ultimately. Because here's what I always say, you can know the most about a product or a lender, but if you don't know how to sell, you won't be a mortgage broker, right? So if you got somebody who's a 10 out of 10 in lender knowledge, but they're a 2 out of 10 in sales, they could work at the bank and do some internal stuff, but they could never be a mortgage broker because you have to sell in order to be a mortgage broker. The other challenge with this is that at least half of mortgage brokers that I know that hire somebody do not want to hire someone who's going to want to be a mortgage broker. So if you say, hey, I'll be your assistant, but I want to eventually be your competition. Often they're like, why do I want to do that? And so unless you're really upfront about it and you come up with a plan that is a long-term win for both of you, it can be a challenge to even get that gig. And then the other challenge that I see with this is people who are wired to be good assistants typically are not always. This is, I don't have a scientifically valid sample size, but I've seen enough of this to have, certainly a pattern here where I've seen people that are really good at the assistant role typically don't have the same wiring to be good at the sales role. Not always. There's exceptions. There's people that are great at both and they are rare, but they do exist. It is a great path. Path number 4 is an ad base. So somebody who comes into the mortgage, this one's rare. This is the most one, I'd say the most rare, and I think it's the most difficult, but it can be done. And then somebody gets into the mortgage space and they either have marketing skills when it comes to lead generation, so maybe ad-based stuff, and they can put together a marketing plan or they can run ads and they can drive business that they can then convert. And typically when they run ads, they got to run some kind of niche. The niche could be lowest rate, the niche could be reverse mortgages, the niche could be business for self, but they'll run ads and then they will learn really, really quickly because they can generate leads. Now, so the pros of that, it's scalable. You can control your lead flow. You're not reliant on any referral networks. The cons are you're competing with people who do this for like your companies like True North and these other big companies that do this for a living. They have very robust, very sophisticated follow-up systems. And I find it's challenging for the average broker to do this unless you already have those skills. But I've seen it done. I don't want to say it can't be done because I've seen people do it. It's just not as common. And also you need to have resources. You need money to be able to put into it because if you're going to do ads, you got to be spending money on it. And it doesn't mean you need to master, if you don't already have this, you need to master the skill of ad-based marketing and then conversion and follow-up. And that's a whole other skill on its own before you even get to the sales call, right? This is why these big companies will have an entire team that does marketing and referral partnerships that drives leads to salespeople because there's such big roles, big responsibilities that you really have to go deep to get good at them. But I've seen it work, but I think it is the most rare. But when I see it done well, I always give them the quiet golf app of great job. That is not easy to do, but if you've done it, kudos to you. And then the final path, which I think is the best, which is build a referral-based business. This is the most common, in my opinion, the most sustainable path because ultimately you have to learn how to build a referral-based business is the one that's going to create the highest quality leads, highest conversion, and you then become self-sustaining. And so this is what we coach on at our brokerage. We coach new people on this or even experienced people how to build scalable businesses. The pros are, as I said, highest close rate, most scalable for solo brokers or teams. So referral-based business will break it down for you. Essentially, you tap your existing network. So everybody has a network. You may, I don't have a network, Scott. Yes, you do. You know people. Could be from university, previous jobs, from your church groups, whatever you're involved in. Those are people. Those people know your referral partners or people that you want to know. So financial planners, realtors, CPAs, accountants. And so the trick is to basically go to your network, people that you know, have a conversation, get introductions to these potential referral partners. And then when you meet the referral partners, the potential referral partners, you need to have a value proposition. You need to have a way for them to go, oh, you're different. I should refer you. And so for us, what we do is we show people how to build presentations around that and how to build really strong bonds quickly so that they get referrals. And I was thinking recently, this rookie that I was coaching and he had met with a realtor who had said, I've already got 6 mortgage brokers I work with. I don't need to meet with you. He said, no, let me give you 15 minutes. Let me show you why I think you should work with me. At the end of that 15 minutes, he gave his mortgage and a referral to his sister to that mortgage broker. But he had already knew 6 mortgage brokers. The truth is that most mortgage brokers are terrible at having a business conversation with a referral partner, whether it's a realtor, a financial planner, a CPA. And so because of that, they don't generate business. So step 1 in this, there's 3 steps really. The step 1 is tap your network for referral partners. Step 2 is value proposition to those referral partners. Step 3 is when you start generating leads from those referral partners is you build a really tight process so that you can generate leads and referrals from your process. And eventually you don't need to do some presentations. Eventually your process, when it gets big enough, becomes where all your business comes from. So that's the 3, simplistically, that's the 3 stages of building a referral-based business. All right, so I'll give you a quick recap on this. So path number 1 is banker to broker, very common path. And I see lots of people do it successfully. Path number 2 is the sales only at a lead gen shop. So you're learning the sales side of it. You're learning the client conversation, the discovery call. You're learning some underwriting. Path number 3 is assistant to broker. Talk about that. Path number 4 is somebody who comes into the mortgage business and either acquires or has marketing skills in terms of ad-based and can set those things up. And that can work, least common. And then finally, the last is referral-based business, which is you use your tap your existing network, find referral partners, do a great job, and then create business from that business. Hope you find this useful. Whatever path you're on, know that this is a fantastic career. I also believe that even in the current market, it's been challenging, but man, there's so much opportunity with it right now. And there's people that are going to be leaving the business. There's people that have been in the business for a long time and it was kind of easy for them. It's not as easy as it was, but that means there's an opportunity for people that are either want to be in this for the long term or that are new in this, because we see people all the time that are having record years right now even though this is not a great year. And it's because they're just thinking differently and acting differently, and they're getting a different result. I hope you find it useful. Hey, I'm Scott Beckford. As I always say, there's no problem in your mortgage business that someone else hasn't already solved. The problem or your challenge is who's got the answer. Goal is this podcast to provide some of those answers. Thanks for listening, and I will see you on the next episode.